Hey, this is Neil's on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Buy some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium. Make sure to be kind, helpful, and grateful. Uh, let's throw out some disclaimers here. Don't listen to me, I'm full of crap. And everything I say is be taken as bull crap. All right, now we got most of that out of the way. What are you guys crying about? What? Got a crybaby little kitten here? Making too much noise. Sorry about that, guys. What's up, C4? I got a crying baby here. Don't know why he's crying. She. But anyhow, let's get to the first. This is funny. Sabine, oh my God. Sabine Hassenfelder is awesome person. I'm gonna give her a like. Actually, going to put, hey, what's up? Her thing. See, anyone who wants to watch this, subscribe to Sabine. She's awesome. Tells it like it is, doesn't hold back. Now let's see what she has to say about Europe. And listen, she's very sarcastic in her humor.
Wrong with Europe. It's hard to ignore that we're dangerously and depressingly falling behind in technological developments. This is particularly obvious when it comes to artificial intelligence, on which the entire European Union missed the boat. And after we missed the boat, we formed a committee to study the peer. What is going on? Let me illustrate the problem. This is a bottle of melatonin I bought in a supermarket in the United States. 5 milligram a piece. It's almost empty. This is why I recently bought a new one. EU product, 0.5 milligram a piece. If you want 5 milligrams per pill over here, you need a prescription. So now I have to take 10 pills instead of 1, because our government assumes that adults are too dumb to make their own decisions. If you're located in the United States, you should see the t-shirts that I'm selling with Einstein's field equations and so on. If you're located in Europe, you can't see them, because the feed doesn't fulfill some obscure regulation, and God knows it could be dangerous to buy a t-shirt on YouTube. Self-driving cars? No, can't do this here. Too much could go wrong. Embryonic stem cell research? Heaven forbid. Drone deliveries? Wait, we first need a framework for a strategy for an initiative. It will stand on 6 pillars, and then we'll pass laws until anyone who remembers what they're about has died. Did you know that the largest tech company in Europe is American? It's because the American companies are registered some branch in Ireland for tax reasons. This is also why I recently got a letter from the Irish tax office, because I make income through Google's branch registered in Ireland. And speaking of taxes, yes, it's right what they say. I work for the government more than half of the year. I now have to pay a church tax, even though I haven't been a member of any church ever in my life, though I spent some time among string theorists. This is a bottle of Advil I bought in the United States. Contains 300 pills of ibuprofen. Can't buy this here. For one thing, you can't buy painkillers in bottles. Oh no, that's way too dangerous. And if you want more than 50 pills a pack, you need a prescription. You can buy 50 packs of 20, all right, but not 1 pack of 100. Way too dangerous. We can't allow this. It has to be regulated. And then there are the bottle caps that no longer detach. So if you want to drink out of the bottle, you now have the cap hanging in your face. The problem with this bottle cap disaster is not the caps. I can see that in some situations it's actually useful, and if you pull hard enough, it comes off anyway. No, the problem isn't the bottle caps. The problem is that the European Commission spent years on coming up with regulations and plans to solve a problem that didn't exist in the first place. I understand why the Brits left the European Union. Not that I think it was a good idea to leave a trade union with literally all of your neighbor countries. Not super smart, but I understand the sentiment. The European Union is not a country. All its members are unhappy in their own ways. So one can't reasonably make any general statements about what's going on. And that's just as well because I'll unreasonably make general statements. I think Europeans have become too damn complacent and also totally ignorant of what's going on in the rest of the world. This graph shows how labor productivity in the EU stopped growing in pace with that of the US sometime in the 1980s. The major reason for this becomes clear if you look at labor productivity per working hour, which is basically the same both in the US and the EU. This means the reason Europeans are less productive is simply that they work less, and our most productive hours are the ones we spend planning the summer vacation. For some while, this didn't matter all that much for tech developments, but it became really obvious with the dot-com boom that the Europeans basically entirely missed. Good thing, you might say, less money wasted. Okay, but this is the reason why today almost no big internet service is European, with the one exception of Spotify that no one seems to know is Swedish. And with AI, we're just making the same mistake again. Last year, Mario Draghi.
Oh, by the way, Dream Inc. or DreamWork Inc. is the only non-American micronuclear reactor company. It's also Swedish. It's just ironic.
Draghi, who used to run the European Central Bank, wrote a long report for the European Commission about Europe's economy. If nothing changes, he said, Europe faces a slow agony of falling more and more behind. He laid out some steps for improvement, most importantly, make innovation easier, faster, and cut back on the paperwork. A year later, basically nothing has happened.
Basically, they need to deregulate because they've got too many politicians that don't have work, so they come up with things to do, so they start regulating things, and they're feeling the ramifications of their idiotic policies right now.
In a recent speech, Draghi said, governments have not grasped the gravity of the moment. I think he's right. And it's not just governments. I notice this when I talk to people here. They don't understand just how much Europe has fallen behind. They're confident it's not possible and too proud to admit that their welfare state isn't working anymore. The major problem with the welfare state is that it has too much inertia. It's too slow. This is why we're seeing trends towards authoritarian governments all over the world.
Like
because
Poland.
any other political system is just too slow at this point to keep pace with technological progress. I'm not saying authoritarian governments are good. I'm saying they're an easy way to make fast decisions. And this is why authoritarianism is thriving. And if we don't find a way to dramatically speed up and simplify democratic decision-making soon, more countries will default on authoritarianism. The Chinese get it. The Americans get it. And if the Europeans don't get it very quickly, well, I'm seriously considering moving to the UK, but maybe we'll catch up eventually, once we've translated the innovation forms into all 24 official languages. Part of the problem, both in Europe and in the United States, is lack of information about what's going on elsewhere. And a great way to keep an overview on global news is today's sponsor, Ground News. Ground News is a news platform for news from all extra information. Take, for example, this recent story about how the BBC was accused of editing a Trump speech in a misleading way. Ground News collects all stories about this and gives you a brief summary. You also see at one glance that this basically wasn't covered.
Okay, enough about that. I don't want to help her sell her stuff. I just wanted to bring you her perspective, the first story of what's going on in Europe and why Europe is falling apart, because they have a lot of politicians that don't know what sex they are, for one, don't care what sex they are, for two, don't care about anything other than coming up with policies and regulations that will fuck their economies, so where they can make headline news for a day to feel important. And that's what happens when you have screwed up governments and people that don't care. But regardless, let's go on to the next story. And what is our next story? I don't know. We'll find out. Uh, yeah, let's do this one. This is my backyard. This is, of course, it's a day old KTLA out of Sacramento. It's a news station. I'm gonna give them a thumbs up, but I can legally show this. It's a news station.
Staff Dana Williamson was formally charged and pleaded not guilty in a political corruption case that is rocking Sacramento. More bombshells today as two others, including the former chief of staff of Xavier Becerra, have now also been charged.
With more on a busy week in California politics, let's go inside California politics with Nikki Lorenzo. Nikki, wow, what a week it's been, huh? I suppose we'll start with the big headline, the indictments, a story that keeps getting more and more complicated. Walk us through what's going on. It feels like we need a corkboard and some red string.
Yeah, and probably about another 35 minutes, but I know we don't have that kind of time. But yes, this involves some very big political insiders. You're talking the top aide to Governor Newsom. And I have to say, when this indictment came out on Friday, everybody was shocked. And I was talking to...
First off, anytime you have a leader who everyone around that leader starts falling, they're falling on a sword to protect the leader, because obviously the leader would be guilty. So just keep that in mind when you hear this story. Hopefully Gavin will be gone soon.
People who worked closely with Dana Williamson, who knew her very, very well, who were shocked by this. And there are other people too that were not shocked by this, because she's known to be sort of an intense person, very loyal to the people that she's working for, but has a brash style. She's pleaded not guilty, but these other two individuals that were named in the indictment that you showed images of them, that is Sean McCluskey. He was the former HHS secretary, Xavier Becerra's chief of staff, and he was in court today pleading not guilty. And this all stems around essentially theft regarding the former HHS secretary and a campaign account. So those two individuals, they have accepted plea deals. But I can tell you guys, I combed through that 23-page indictment, pretty intense. It involves audio recordings, individuals wearing wires. Dana Williamson, for her part in this, she has pleaded not guilty. She posted bond at $500,000, put up her house as collateral in that. But in terms of how there is the reaction to this, Xavier Becerra has said this is a gut punch, someone that he has trusted for a really long time. And Governor Newsom's office really has distanced.
Hold on, I got something out of this that has nothing to do with that. She put her house up as collateral. It's a $500,000 bond, which means you have to have $50,000 cash, 10% of the bond amount in cash. And people say houses aren't cash, but yet she put up her house as cash for a $50,000 bond, which means she had equity in her house. So therefore her house is cash. That's what I got out of that statement.
Themselves from Dana Williamson, the person who was essentially running California for a couple of years, and so they're going to watch this play out.
You know, these are not the types of headlines that the governor or a candidate running for governor want to be associated with these staffers, you know, for both Newsom and Becerra facing charges, even though that there's no indication that those two are involved.
Yeah, indeed, too. You know, when we heard the term, especially when President Trump was running for president the first time, drain the swamp. And that's something that I've heard from insiders here in Sacramento. This is very swampy. It's the political class up here, you know, doing nefarious things, essentially, and really not being held accountable for it. And then something like this happens. Again, Governor Newsom not named in this, just the fact that his former top aide is, and Politico had some reporting too earlier this week that said that as soon as the governor found out about this, Dana Williamson was no longer his chief of staff. Again, Xavier Becerra running for governor in a field that is wide open right now. And really the indictment has painted him as the victim in this. I mean, these are people that he trusted that were stealing from him, allegedly. And so he said this was something that was hard to learn about, but also said that he has been in full cooperation with the Department of Justice.
You got to clean up your state, Gerald. We're having a hard time enough trying to take care of this one out here.
All right, 2026 heating up. Lots of campaign announcements and speculation to talk about. Let's start with Christine Pelosi running for state Senate. Bit of political musical chairs here.
Yeah, indeed. That was kind of a surprise because she was sort of the heir apparent to her mom, Nancy Pelosi, that she was sort of seen as the shoo-in. I spoke with her at the Democratic National Convention last year, and I asked her about that. I'm like, come on, if your mom retires, are you going to be the one to kind of carry on the legacy of the Pelosi name? And she said, we're looking at a lot of things, and she would be seen sort of as a shoo-in in a way because the Pelosi name is still super strong in that district. And then this week it comes out, especially with Senator Scott Wiener announcing prior to Pelosi even saying that she was going to retire, that he was going to run for that seat and that she's going to essentially run for his seat. Now, there's two schools of thought here, that there was some deal made between the Scott Wiener camp and the Pelosi camp, or, the fact that Christine Pelosi doesn't want to travel to D.C. She wants to stay in California. She's very rooted in Democratic politics here. So there's two schools of thought. I've talked to people, Democrats, who say either one of those scenarios is plausible.
And State Senate Pro Tem Mike McGuire announcing his run for Congress this week, running against Republican Doug LaMalfa in one of the redrawn congressional districts. Now, that is being met with a lot of controversy, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed, because when all of this was going on here up in Sacramento, there was criticism of the process that essentially, because initially when Governor Newsom floated this redistricting measure, there were Democrats in the legislature that did not like it. So there was some, rumors going around and some insiders saying that in order for them to get this across the line, that some deals had to be made, then that McGuire essentially drew a seat for himself. He has pushed back on that and said absolutely not. And the person that he would be challenging on the Republican side, who is the incumbent, Doug LaMalfa, has basically said that, this is corruption. He's picking his own seat. He pushed back on that and said, that's not true. We're going to run a race and we're going to let the voters of California decide.
And then we've run out of time, but we talked about him last week. The drumbeat of a possible gubernatorial campaign for Eric Swalwell growing louder. Looks like we could talk about his campaign launch at this time next week. We'll stay tuned. We know you.
Despicable. Totally despicable. And this is what's going to kill Pelosi's daughter from getting in, is this next story. This one's a good one.
See, dodging Jake Tapper's questions on CNN about how much money she and her husband made from stock trades while in office. And then that was GOP Senator Josh Hawley on how her legacy is one of massive profits from stock trading. Now, a new report says Congresswoman, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and her husband, Paul, earned more than $130 billion in stock profits, an astronomical 17,000% return since her congressional career began in 1987. That return outpaced the Dow Jones by 10 times. Let's welcome back to the show former Deputy Press Secretary to Trump, Hogan Gidley. Hogan, these numbers are staggering. Pelosi's wealth grew from about $30 million in 1987 to $278 million estimated today. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and there are a lot of questions, a lot of concerns surrounding this type of behavior and this type of rate of return. Boy, I wish I could come up with 0.5% of her rate of return, but my goodness, she's making millions and millions of dollars every year. I think you even said they did the Pelosi's with about $700 million, and now they're well above $133 million in profits in her time in Congress. How did she have all this great information? And when she outpaces those who are experts in this field, I would really like to get her knowledge about this. In fact, I don't care anything about bills she wants to pass. I don't care about her retirement plans. I just want to sit and talk to her for a little bit and let her give me some stock tips.
It's funny, but you wonder if House Judiciary, Senate Judiciary should really look into this, because Wall Street analysts, let's go through it, have called that as suspicious. The timing of Pelosi's husband's stock trades around congressional legislation that was about to pass. Let's go through it. He was trading in tech stocks options. It contributed to a perception they were using insider information to enrich themselves. Paul Pelosi buys nearly $2 million in Tesla call options the day before Biden announced a major spending push on electric cars. Tesla stock popped 20%. 2023, Paul Pelosi trades between $1 million and $5 million of stocks in chip makers just days before Congress announced $52 billion in spending on the chip industry. Last year, he sold and dumped 2,000 shares of Visa stock just months before the Justice Department announced its antitrust lawsuit against Visa. Shouldn't there be more like a probe here?
Well, see, this is what I'm talking about too. When I tell you guys there's $20 trillion flowing into America, they just said how Nancy found out ahead of time where money was going, so her husband invested in it. I've already told you guys where money's going from out of country, not stock market, so it's not insider trading. External countries and corporations are investing $20 trillion in America. And I've been telling you people where the money's flowing. So if you want 16,000 times return on your investment, I've been telling you how to get it.
No question. I know the House admin is going to actually take a look at this upcoming, I think, next week, as early as next week, because so many questions surround this. And you just point out what a great timeline that was. All of these suspicious trades are happening just before big moves are made by Congress. It really does reek. It doesn't pass the smell test.
But yet at the same time, last year in October, I called out nuclear energy, small and modular reactors. And damn sure enough, they've gone up 1,000%. So it wasn't insider trading. It was the government. So there is insider trading. What they're talking about with Nancy is they're doing stock-specific knowledge from stocks. What I talk about, where I get my information to give 1,000% returns, is I get the information, public information from the government, and they tell. So these two people here on your screen are real scummy because they wanted guarantees, quick return, flash cash, to where the way I do it, I look at what the government says and then I bring it to you guys and I tell you. And then if you choose to invest in it, you know, you make 1,000% of return on your investments and whatnot. So there's a little differential in how and what I do and what these people did, but their percentage of return is capable of, you're capable of getting that kind of return on investment. You just don't have to concentrate on Wall Street and concentrate on the government. That's all.
But I know House admin is going to look into it and try and beef up not just some disclosures, but also some fines as well, because a lot of times people don't even pay it, or they just pay it to slap on the wrist. But these things are very, very significant. And if this is, in fact, criminal behavior, someone needs to get to the bottom of it and someone needs to get punished for it. I'm so sick of us finding out all this information. We see some, some information come out, but then nothing ever happens to anybody here. If there was something illegal done, I hope she actually pays the price, because my goodness, these numbers are eye-popping and staggering. No one else has been able to do this like she has.
Hogan Gidley, thank you so much.
It's just nice hearing someone saying, hope she goes to jail. That would be awesome to see a politician go to jail for some of the illegal stuff they do to us. But, yeah, there was some of the stuff I just wanted to bring to you guys today. Just interesting topics that I found, well, interesting. Really don't have anything else. Well, I do, but not for YouTube. So basically, if no one wants to come up and chat, I finished showing what I wanted to show and bringing the perspective I wanted to bring from what I've shown. And I believe, in my opinion, what the Pelosi's have done for the stock thing is illegal by the means from which they got their information consecutively. It just so happens our government's turning out information now, because every 20 years they have to put out a future forecast of where the government's going. And that's where I'm getting my information. But it's not a weekly event, the same as what Nancy Pelosi was getting. So hers is definitely insider trading, to where I just take information the government gives on what future direction the government's going, and then I tell people to look in certain specific investments off of that information. But anyhow, having said that, clarified my position over Nancy Pelosi's position, because I've got two stocks that I've told people about. One of them's it maxed out at 1,600% in 1 year, and the other one is up 1,300% over 3.5 years. So I'm not bad for not being a stock guy. But then again, I listen to what the government puts out. I don't listen to what stock people say. Having said that, I hope you guys have a great beginning to the rest of the week.